Hello everyone and welcome to DevToberFest 2025. This is week one of Tooling and Frontend Tuesdays and we have 5 exciting sessions lined up for you today. I am Srinivasan Neelamegam, developer advocate at SAP, and I will be the host for this session. Before we start, a quick reminder to our participants to join the DevToberFest group in the SAP community to register for the contest. The grand prize is an all-expense paid trip to one of the TechEd event locations in 2026. We will also be sharing a validation tutorial by end of today covering all the questions from sessions happening today, and the link will be available in the description box later today. We will take any questions from the YouTube chat at the end of the presentation. The session for today is Build a Joule Skill from Scratch with Joule Studio by Martin Plummer. Martin is a senior product specialist from the SAP Build team. So without further delay, let's welcome Martin.
Thank you, Srini. Let me just share my screen. Is that visible, Srini?
Yes, it is visible, Martin.
Okay. So in this session, I'm going to walk you through the first 3 tutorials in this tutorial group, Build Your First Joule Skill in Joule Studio, showing you how to set up the environment and connectivity, create the action projects. This should be fairly familiar to those of you who are already know process automation. And then the interesting part comes at the end where we'll use the new Joule Studio to create and deploy a Joule skill to a standalone test environment. At the end of that, we will have something looking like this, where we have an assistant, a standalone assistant of Joule, and we can give it a prompt. And through that prompt, the assistant will choose the appropriate skill. In this case, there is only one to choose, and take the input parameters, fill input parameters, connect to first one system to retrieve information about the employee, and then connect to another system and create a badge in that system. Okay. Before we get into the details, my colleague Maria, who's going to be following up this session with a session on agents, has asked me to mention the this blog that she's written, How to Get Started with the Joule Studio. Gives all the information you need, getting started, commercialization, details, and most importantly, links to the various informations like architecture overview, demo videos, learning journeys, tutorials, and so on. I've also been asked to touch upon the architecture. Principally, how do we set up or how do we distribute the various components that are necessary across the sub-accounts? And here we can see in the architecture diagram that build process automation, Joule Studio, Joule are all in the same sub-account. And this is how people tend to do this for setting up test environments. It's convenient. Pack everything onto a single sub-account and you're good to go. But this is not the only way to do it. For my own landscape, if I just go in there, I have actually got Joule in one sub-account, my build process automation in another sub-account, and my test work zone in yet another sub-account. So it's possible to do it in any way that suits your purposes. Okay. Okay, back to the topic in hand. Joule skills. Now, what is a Joule skill? Well, here on my corporate portal, I have a Joule icon, and I can use that to pull up some sort of assistant, and I can ask it general knowledge questions, may or may not get something useful back. But when I get into SAP specific questions or connecting to SAP systems, then I get very well-defined answers. So I can ask it who my manager is, and in actual fact, I get a very accurate answer, and I can jump from there to the appropriate profile and so on. However, if I ask a similar question, who is the manager of Martin Plummer at NASA? Well, this information is not available to Joule in the SAP landscape. So maybe this is a gap that I could fill if I had developer access to SAP's Joule, if I had access to NASA's HR system and so on, and I also had Joule Studio, then I could create a custom Joule skill to specifically answer this sort of question. And then when that Joule skill is deployed to Joule, then anyone who asks that question and also has the appropriate authorizations might get back a good answer, or should get back a good answer, because it's a well-defined Joule skill. Okay. Now, we don't have access to these NASA systems and to the Joule of SAP, so I'm going to be working with my own Joule. I'm going to be working with systems that some of you will be familiar with from the developer advocate code jams. We've got a back-end mock SAP system to deliver some employee information, and we have also a so-called badge system, which represents a third-party system. So without more ado, let's get into the tutorial. So the first step is to set up the environment and connectivity for Joule skills. Okay, so here we go. So here I'm in the cockpit, and I can navigate from the cockpit to the lobby. And in the lobby, I can go to the control tower and go to environments. Okay, so I'm going to create my environment, and let's just put this in. I'm just going to give it a few extra letters to differentiate it from what I've already done. And there we have it. There's my environment for testing. It's a standalone environment. So when I click on that, we can see that we've got our Joule Digital Assistant standalone. There's nothing there, so I can't launch it. This is where we'll be launching it from, launching our deployed Joule skills later on. Okay, one point I want to make a note of here is this is a so-called shared environment. Okay, so up here you can see the share button, and this is where you can specify which other users or user groups are allowed to make use of this environment. And it looks like this is only for testing, but this also has an impact on the deployed skills when they're deployed to production. So this is the concept of sharing with regards to users and user groups. Okay, let's go back into the instances and we go to the destinations. So now I need to create two destinations. I've got my cheat sheet off to the side here. And we've got and I need right now. So I've got my URL, I've got the name of the destination, and I need to add three properties. Add a property. If I just go to my documentation here, in the Joule Studio documentation, you can see the necessary parameters that are needed for when using OData destinations. OData destinations is what I am going to be using for the connectivity to the backend systems. So copying that in and these. Come on. Let's copy this one in. Okay, good. So we've got this one. Let's just quickly check the connection. Good. And now I'm just going to duplicate it because the other destination is going to have the same parameters. But of course, it's going to have a different URL. Right. Wrong. There we go. Check connection. Okay. So let's just see what we've done. We've created an environment. We have created destinations, and yes, I keep forgetting this one, associate destinations with environments. Okay, so we need to go to the control tower and associate the destinations with the environments. And I've got to make a comment here as well about public. So let's just go to the control tower, destinations, and we need to add the destinations. So first of all, let's do that one. Okay, so if I was lazy, I could do all environments. I'm just going to go with the tutorial. And this is the destination that I've just created. This is the only one that is necessary for Joule skills, but I'm also going to select public. Now, public is something that is a leftover from process automation. It's deprecated also in process automation and shouldn't really be used. But because we want to test our actions in the action projects, and we want to use these, we want to be able to connect to the backend systems using our destinations, we need to add the public. So, and I'm going to do the same again for the add service. Next. And that's it. Okay. Next. Right, this is probably the hardest part of the tutorial, is working with the action projects. I find the UI a little bit difficult. Okay, so we've got our destinations, and we want to create two action projects that allow our Joule skills to access the APIs by these destinations. And let me just get into the thing before I go any further. Actions. So, choose create. We choose OData destinations because that's what we're doing, and we can go with the. Are we doing that? Yeah, let's go with the mock first. Okay, so this API has got lots and lots of actions, and you only want to make the relevant actions available to your Joule skills. So let me see if I can find the ones I'm interested in. There, add, and add. Um, okay, good. So let's see what these look like. So right, so the output of these actions, of these actions is going to, by default, deliver an awful lot of stuff that we're not interested in. So I'm going to get rid of that, customize it for my Joule skill. So first thing I'm going to do, and this is a little trick actually, is you select all the skills, and then I've sorted by alphabetical order. I deselect the ones I want to keep. So business, where have we got to? First name, last name. Then I have to scroll up to here, remove, and that's much tidier. Let's just check if I had anything else I need to do. Retrieve business partner general data. Okay, so I can save that and I can test it. And this is where I was telling you I needed to associate the public environment, because otherwise this won't show up here. Okay, so we've got Fest, S4HANA mock, and I just press test. And this is the sort of data we're going to get back in our Joule skill. Okay, I'm going to do the same with this one. This one allows me to specify a particular employee number and get back the relevant skill. So once again, select them all, deselect the ones I want to keep. First name, last name, scroll up, remove, and we're done, I believe. Save. And yes, I want to check that that is also working before I start using it in the Joule skill. So test. Here we go. So this is the information that I'm going to actually get back in the Joule skill when I give it this business partner number. Okay, so we've got our API sorted for the mock SAP backend system. And now we want to sort out the API for the badge system. So where are we? Oops, I do actions. So in the actions, come on. Right. So create go data destination. This time it's the badge service. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I think in the tutorial we say we want to select 5 of these. Background is that we're reusing a service that's been used for code jams and so on. So not all of the actions are relevant, but we definitely need this one, create badge, and I think we might like get entity from badges just to check that things are, let's just go for, let's do that. Okay, I think that's what we have in the tutorial. Okay, so we've got those ones, but this is the one that we're going to be working with. And most important, this is one that used to catch me out as well. By default, the badge ID has the type string, but actually it should be a number. So we have to change that. And we're going to tidy up the input, as I said, in the right place. Get in. Just forget everything I've said there. I'm in the wrong. Discard changes. I should have just selected this one, post. We want to create a badge. So the output is going to be, as I said before, we need it to be a number. Okay. And in the input, we're tidying up the input because, as I say, we don't use the process ID in our tutorial, so we can just get rid of that. So this basically shows that one of the reasons for having this action project as between the destination or the API and the Joule skill is to be able to narrow down or focus on the inputs, the outputs, and the and various other things that you can do to make the action project more specific to the skill that you're designing. So we've got that. So we've got the input, we've got the output. And I think I should actually remove the process ID as well, but it's not in the tutorial, so we'll stick with the tutorial. And we can now, first of all, save it. And now we can test. So first of all, we can do a test, quickly test with a blank. So it's created a user it's created a badge, but with missing data. That's okay. And then we can clear, come back. We can try our data that we're going to use in the tutorial. So I'm just copying and pasting just to make sure everything's very close to the description in the tutorial. All I've done is actually, in preparation for this, is just to copy all the various texts from the tutorial into a notepad so that it's easier for me to deal with. And we can test that. And you can see here we've got the new badge created and the data that's assigned to it. Okay, so that is the action projects. So we've got two action projects, one for handling calls to the SAP, so-called SAP system, the mock server, and another one to handle calls to the badge system. So now we can go into the third part of the tutorial, which is, oh, I don't want that, back to the top. Using Joule Studio to create and deploy a Joule skill. And in here, we're going to create a Joule skill. Is that all? It's just, that's all. We're going to create the Joule skill. We're going to define input and output parameters. We're going to add the first action, which is to the mock server to get the user information. We're going to add the second action to do the badge creation. Then we're going to define what Joule is going to return to the user when it's asked to create a badge in a conversation. And then finally, end configuration is filling the, let's say, the output parameters. What happens is that, or with a Joule skill, it can be used standalone inside, let's say, a Joule conversation, or it could be a building block for another Joule skill, or it could be used as a tool in a Joule agent. And that's why you like to have, or potentially have, output parameters, so you can pass those parameters from your Joule skill as a building block into the next skill or back to the agent. Okay, so, and then finally, they're going to be releasing and deploying, and then testing in the standalone assistant. That's where the tutorial stops. Hopefully, if I've got time, I'll show you how you can go from testing in a standalone assistant to deploying to, let's say, the productive Joule. And I'll clarify a few points with regards to the nature of testing in Joule and working in Joule in production. Okay, so quite a lot to get through, but it's fairly simple. So let's get started. Where are we? Okay, what to be in here. So the first thing we need to do is create a Joule skill. And it's going to be, as usual, have a name and a description. Right, the description here is not important for the purposes of selecting Joule skills. We'll come to that in a second. Okay, and now this is a project we've created. Now we're going to create the Joule skill. A project can have multiple skills inside it. We're just going to create one. So the first thing I'm going to do is put the description in. And this is the important description. This is what Joule will use to select this particular skill from all the other skills that it has. Now, when we test, let's just finish this off. When we test in the standalone assistant, there'll be one, in this case, one skill, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 skills when you play through several other tutorials. So Joule doesn't, it's not a challenge for Joule to select the right skill. But when you deploy to the so-called shared environment, where the Joule skills are mixed in with all the SAP delivered ones and any other Joule skills you may have developed, then the description becomes much more important. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is to disable this. So Joule can create its own responses. So if you don't specifically say, I want Joule, if you don't specifically provide a response or a response template, then Joule can create a response, but then you don't have real control over what Joule's going to give back. Okay, the next thing we need is we need to look at the parameters, and we've got the input parameters. Okay, this is a little bit tiresome for me, so just make sure I get this right. So we need 3 input parameters, and we're going to have the employee ID. And this is required because otherwise I'm not going to be able to get a badge. And we have some optional parameters as well. And these are going to be passed into the call to the APIs. So let's apply that. And we have also in the tutorial decided to configure some output parameters. Now, I don't think we actually, but we probably don't need these for the point that we're going to reach in this tutorial. But so here, this is important to note. We're making sure that the type matches up with the number type that we've got in the action project. And then always are required. And we've got the employee ID. So anyway, in other words, the idea here is that you've got, once you've created your badge, you're going to probably, or you might want to pass that on to another skill or some other process. Yeah, so we've got that. So we've got the, nope, cancel. Got the input parameters, we've got the output parameters, good. Right, so now we do the, let's just go back to the list. We've got to add the first action project. So to here. Now let's get rid of some of this. Makes it easier for me. Right, so if you've used process automation, this user interface will look quite familiar. Here we can call an action, but it's also possible to run automations or run processes. As I mentioned, you can launch other Joule skills. And yeah, let's just do the call action. We don't have any pre-configured actions here as, let's say, favorites. So right, let's see. Let's see if this finds it. So retrieves business partner data using business partner number. Okay, I don't see the thing that that I created earlier. So let's go back out. And this is where I have forgotten 2 steps. So I created these, I modified them, I saved them, but I forgot to release them. So let's release. And I need to publish as well. It's published, good. So then I go back to, never quite sure with the navigation here. So first, publish that one. This one. Release, release. And publish. Okay, so I've published my, let's get rid of that. I've published it. Let's see if it automatically picks up now. Call action. Right, looks better. So it's this one here, retrieves business partner data. This is a project that I created, so we just add that. Well, that's a relief. So everything's working so far. Yeah, let's see. So we need to, at runtime, we need to, it needs to know which destination to use. So we need a destination variable that we're going to configure when we deploy the the skill. So we've got that. Okay, should type in a proper description, but I'm going to cut some time here. And this is the bit I usually forget. You can see. Yeah, your step with ID Joule action needs a destination. So I've created the destination variable, but I usually forget to actually assign it. Okay, save that. And then we're going to look at the inputs. So now I map the input here, or I map from the skill inputs, the business partner from the API. Or rather, I'm going to fill the business partner from the API with the employee ID here. Okay. I'll mention it again later. I'm doing simple mapping here. Where is it here? Inputs, I'm simply mapping the employee ID. But up here, you can see apply formula. You can do all sorts of things like concatenating strings. You can change parameter. You can change types and so on. So that's something to note. It's not part of this tutorial, but worth knowing. Save. So I've got the ID, and we can see the outputs that are going to come from the call. Okay, let's just double check that I've got that right. Add first action. Yeah, looks about right. Okay. Now we've got the second action to put in. Same process. Haven't used that project yet, so I have to go into here. And, oh, where is it? Invoke action create badge from the project that we created earlier. Can add it. Okay. Same. We need to create a destination. Of course, it's going to a different system, so we need a different destination variable. I've got to assign it. Yeah, there we go. Save. So we've got the inputs. Let's make it a little bit smaller. And we've got to map the inputs. And we've got access to the outputs from the previous one, plus the inputs from the skill itself. So let's say we've got status, that's clear. Last name is that one. First name is going to be that one. Community ID is going to be that one. And the business partner ID is going to be that one, I guess. Business partner, community, first name. Oh, missed the last name. Okay, here we go. Double check in the here. Oh yeah, business partner, community ID, first name, last name, status. Yeah, looks good. Okay. And the outputs are predefined. We're not doing anything there. And save. So we now got the two actions in there, and then we need to define the send message. So as you can see here, we need to create a send message. So let's add that in. Okay, I hope it's called send response. It's, yeah. Interesting. There's new stuff here. Okay, I've learned something. Send message. Right. Send message. Let's get rid of that. Open. Okay. We're going to build basically this. Okay. So we're going to have a title. Oh, you see it updates here on the preview. Then we're going to have a text. Okay, badge has been created for, and we can then do data mapping for first name. Yeah, let's go with that. And we want to put one in here for what goes in there. Badge number, I think. Badge ID. Okay. And then we just choose some sort of badge request action buttons. Okay, so action buttons. Okay, so here we're going to give the option to actually navigate somewhere else. And in this case, we're going to navigate to a build apps front end for the badge service. So we've got that, we can save it. Okay, let's double check the test. Your output is not connected. Let's double check. Send message, end configuration. Okay, good. Almost through. Send message. End configuration. Badge. You can see here the it only allows the types that match up. So badge ID, badge ID. Employee ID is a string, so lots of which one did I go for actually? Let's just check that. End configuration. Business partner ID and first name, all from the same. Short-term memory is terrible. First name. Yeah. Okay. You can see here that I'm choosing the first name, but it says employee name here. This is an ideal opportunity to apply the formula, which I'm not going to do, but you would just go into the formula, use the strung function, and concatenate. Where is it? Can kind of concatenate strings to concatenate, the first name and last name. But in this case, I'm just going to put the first name in because that's consistent with the tutorial, and we're ready to go. Good. Back to the tutorial. All we've got to do is release and deploy. So, release, release. Now, change to the deployed version, or the released version rather, and I can deploy. So, select the environment I created earlier and choose deploy. Give it a few seconds, and I should be able to navigate. Oh, forgot that. So the destination variables we created now need to be filled with the appropriate destination. So badge service is probably going to go to badge service, and Anamok is going to go to Anamok. Okay, deploy. Okay, so it's deployed in environments, tells you which environments it's been deployed to. In this case, it's only one. And you can see the project has been deployed. And when we go to the Joule tab, we can launch the standalone assistant. So I'm asking it to create a badge. I'm giving it the input parameter of the employee ID and giving it a couple of optional extras that we saw in the API. And you can see that the badge request 515567 has been created for John. And from here, we can go to the system. Copy and paste the password, user password. Never a good idea to manually type them in. And we're there. And what was it? 567. Oh, not that one. Someone's. And you can see we've got the badge has been created in this server. So that's the end of the demonstration of the tutorial. But what I want to quickly talk about is what is the difference between deploying to your standalone Joule digital assistant and deploying to a shared environment. And I can turn this standalone environment into a shared environment, not this share, but this share, a shared environment. This means that the Joule skill is then visible within the Joule that is where all the other productively deployed Joule skills are available. So, for example, if I were deploying, if I were sharing this environment to the SAP's Joule system, the Joule skill will then be available here. In this particular case, it will be available on my particular Joule. So if I go to another environment where I have shared it, I think this one here, not shared this particular skill, but I've got a little test skill, which I use for testing. And the difference is that up here, the Joule Digital Assistant is called shared. And if I launch from here and give it a prompt, it will give me my little test message back. And if I go into, let's see where have I got it? Accounts, sign in. If I go to my work zone sub account, where I have a very simple, minimalistic site with nothing in it, apart from Joule having me activated, I can go to my Joule here, and I have access to that. So Magic. Good. So one last thing to wrap up on how all this sort of works together. So if I go to my account level, and I go to the formations, this is how essentially you make Joule available to your work zone to allow Joule skills, the Joule Studio to be activated, is to include all these so-called services in a formation. Let's just close down some of this stuff, and then I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so got 2 minutes maybe to look at this, to talk about Account Explorer. Here we go. So I'm going into yet another landscape. This is my Canary landscape, and I have got also there a couple of formations. I've got a formation here, both of which I set up using boosters, I think. And here I've got a formation, a bit small, where I have the cloud identity services, the Joule system, and I've got a work zone system. And if I go to sorry, I've got to Explorer, make sure I'm in the right one. If I go to here, I've got work zone, which I set up with a booster. And I've also set up SAP build process automation using a booster, I think, or just creating it. And critically, it's got to be build default. And if I go to there, welcome SAP build. Joule skill, not subscribed. So I can't create a Joule skill. That's what I wanted to see. Okay. So this is build default. It's SAP process automation, no Joule skills available. However, if I go to the formations, this is the one where I've got the work zone and the internal Joule system, the Joule system and the work zone system. And I include my process automation system. There we go, SAP. Process automation, let's see, and if only I knew which one. This is it, subcount, which was that one. Okay, so I select the system I want to include. Next step, review, include. Okay, so that's adding process automation to the formation. And let's just duplicate this, and I go into the sub-account. Sub-account was this one. And coming back to what I mentioned right at the start, you can have your systems in completely different sub-accounts, like I showed in my live system. You can have them all in one sub-account, like is shown in the architecture diagram, and you can have it mixed like I have here with the Joule in one system and work zone or whatever, LOB or whatever, and process automation in the same sub-account. So it just is a matter of what suits your requirements. Okay, so this is ready. And we go to exactly the same. Let's do this, create. And now Joule skills are available. Okay, I think that's a good place to stop. That was a success. Srini, you want to open up for questions? I think we've got 2 or 3 minutes.
Yes, Martin. There were a couple of questions on how to get Joule skills in from the build lobby. Maria has provided a link to the blog post. Is there anything you want to add?
The Joule skills in from
Option
the,
build lobby, yeah. How to get that option?
I've just showed that. That's how I've just showed now.
Mhm. You have a tenant, right? You have a tenant, specific tenant, and the Joule skill option appears, but
Basically,
others.
basically, you've got
Mhm.
to have SAP build process automation with the plan build default, and then Joule skills is, or the Joule Studio is automatically available, assuming then you just do this further configuration of bringing it together in a formation of type Joule. Let's just see, what was it called? Uh, integration with Joule. Okay, this is the internal production one, but integration with Joule.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. And there was one question, should SAP build be in the same sub account as SAP Joule?
And I answered that.
Mhm.
I have it in separate sub accounts,
Mhm. Okay.
and I think it's likely that you would have it, but most of the examples I've seen inside SAP, it's in the same one for convenience. I mean, when you're setting things up, you've got to have certain roles assigned to the users, and then when you're deploying you've got to have certain roles in the Joule system, and if you've got them in separate sub accounts, then what I normally do is I forget to assign the roles in the Joule system. But um, and I think in reality, you're going to have them in different systems in a sort of productive environment. But yeah, no harm in having them in the same environment.
Okay. Got it. And there was a question about is human interaction possible while I think the person is trying to ask if human input can be taken in the process of executing the Joule skill. Is that
Um,
possible?
uh, at this point in time, no,
Mhm.
but I think it's coming. And to be honest, when I was doing the demo and something popped up there when I was looking at the messages, it did look like there was a second there was a thing there that was new to me and might very well be an indication that something is there already. But let's say, um, at my current knowledge, it's not yet available. There are a few things missing in the initial release of Joule skills, and yeah, they're getting added in the course of time.
Okay, good to know. And I think this is the last question. Is Joule skill only active within BTP work zone, or can it also be used within S/4HANA private cloud and public cloud environments?
Um, to be honest, I'm not sure about the entire scope of the question. Um, Could you just repeat it again, and let's see if I can
Yeah. So,
answer part of it.
yeah, is the Joule skill only active within BTP work zone, or can it also be used within S4 HANA private cloud and public
Okay,
cloud?
right. It's not just work zone. It's not just work zone. Work zone is what I use because it's the easy one to set up. I can create a work zone, task center, whatever, using a booster. But you can integrate Joule with you, with various LOBs, success factors, LOB, and so on. I don't know the full scope of what you can't do. Maybe that's a question that Maria would maybe answer in the next session, which is following on from this.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. So that's all questions that were outstanding. But for the participants, if you have any questions or you're watching the replay, you can post your questions in the YouTube comments, and we will take a look at it and get it answered for you. And thank you, Martin, for this wonderful session. This session is especially useful because Joule Skills is not available in the free trial version, and people can experience and look at how Joule Skill works through this session. So I'm really glad we had this session today. And a final note to the participants that there will be a validation tutorial which will be posted at the end of the day. The link will be available in the YouTube description. And thank you everyone for joining us, and see you in the next session, which begins in 1 hour. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.